Hello and welcome. My name is Shannon Kemp and I'm the Chief Digital Manager of DataVersity. We would like to thank you for attending DataVersity Demo Day, Data Catalogs. We're very excited to have you join us for this event, and we have a great lineup of sessions for you today to give you an overview of tools and products available for your data management programs. Just a couple of points to get us started. Due to the large number of people that attend these sessions, you will be muted during the event. For questions, we will have a Q&A at the end of each presentation today, and we will be collecting questions via the Q&A section. Or if you'd like to tweet, we encourage you to share highlights or questions via Twitter using hashtag DvDemoDay. And if you'd like to chat with us and with each other, we certainly encourage you to do so. To open the chat or the Q&A panels, you may find those icons in the bottom middle of your screen for those features. And for this event, we will send a follow-up email within the next week to all registrants containing links to the recordings and slides from today's presentations. Now let's kick off our third session with DvSum, and let me introduce our speaker, Ashish Singhvi. Ashish is the co-founder and CEO of DvSum, helping companies add data intelligence to fuel their digital goals. Ashish has over 20 years of experience across data management, data analytics, and data engineering, bringing data-driven processes and technologies to enterprises. A thought leader in data and AI, his mission is to have data teams spend less time finding and managing data and more time delivering timely and accurate insights to business. And with that, I will give the floor to Ashish to get his session started. Hello and welcome.
Hi, thank you, Shannon. Let me share my screen.
Looks good.
All right. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. My name is Ashish Singhvi. For the next 35 minutes, I'll show you what DvSum ML Data Catalog does and how it makes it remarkably easier for data and analytics teams to discover, monitor, and govern data. A quick introduction about DvSum. Our mission is to bring data-driven decision-making to every business. Our products help enterprises deliver timely and accurate data-driven insights that fuel business growth and drive operational efficiency. Our products include the ML Data Catalog, which we are going to talk about today, and Enterprise Data Quality, and we're based in Silicon Valley in California. So a quick, 1 minute about, why the need for ML data catalog. So we all know in our digital economy, data is the new currency, and it's being created and consumed at an ever increasing speed. However, most of this data that is being generated lacks the metadata. And this creates a problem. It makes it difficult for analytics teams to find, evaluate, and trust the data they need to find insights. And it makes it difficult for data teams to govern the data to manage its quality and protect it. Now, the current solutions to address this is either tribal knowledge that exists with few people in the organization, or manual creation, tagging, annotating data in offline data catalogs, and siloed data dictionaries. Now, this is impractical and unsustainable as the data landscape and volume continues to grow. That is where an enterprise ML data catalog comes in. So let's talk about the DvSum solution. So DvSum ML Data Catalog makes it remarkably easy, as I think I'm repeating that, to discover, monitor, and govern data. The key tenets of the solution are with powerful AI-enabled algorithms, it automatically not just catalogs, but classifies and curates data from your numerous data silos and makes it available as a unified and actionable data catalog. Now, with an intuitive knowledge interface, analytics teams can gain visibility into the entire data landscape. They can easily find, evaluate, and confidently choose the best data for their needs. With a browser plugin and desktop widget, business users can consume and contribute to the catalog seamlessly as part of their business process, almost like crowdsourcing within the organization, thereby increasing literacy and trust in data. A little bit more briefly about the last slide before the demo, how it works. So once you connect a data source to DvSum, it first scans that source, captures the basic metadata about data sets and fields and tables and columns. It also profiles and analyzes the data values to provide additional intelligence about the content, when was it last refreshed, and data quality. The next, our AI classifies, matches, and enriches this data with semantic knowledge. We have a lot of built-in universal entities. You will see that, and of course, your own specific entities or terms that you have uploaded from a business glossary, for example. If it finds new data fields, it also recommends new glossary terms that you could add and thereby continue to enrich and build your glossary from the suggestions. Finally, auto curation adds further intelligence by computing data quality scores, changes in data quality, so generating alerts of data drifts and schema drifts, and auto generation of definitions, tagging your data sources, and finally generating alerts. All of this information is then available through a knowledge interface that analytics and data teams and business users can use for their needs. All right, so with that, let's stage the demo. So for the demo today, we'll look at a fictitious company, Acme Corporation, e-commerce retail company buys products, ship orders to customers. From a data landscape at the bottom, we're going to look at data in an Oracle database, on-premise, a Snowflake cloud database, and some files in a data lake. And we'll keep it simple, focusing on products, customers, and orders from a transaction data standpoint. From a user persona standpoint, we look at Sam Stewart, who essentially that is the role that will be driving this whole conversation. And we'll look at from Adam's perspective, whose goal is to find the data so he can build his analytics. And Emma engineer, who's on the data engineering side, how they can monitor new files that are coming into the data lake automatically. And then from Becky business, to look at how she can consume definitions about metrics and data inside her, any applications and reports she's using. So our story we'll follow is we'll catalog one data source. We'll review what kind of metadata that it generates. We can further curate, apply human intelligence to that. We'll upload some glossary terms and KPIs. Then we look from Adam's standpoint on discovering the data, from Becky's standpoint on consuming that data. And then, if there is time, we'll look at from an Emma engineer standpoint about how it automatically detects data quality changes in the data lake. So with that, let's go to DvSum. So I'm logging in as Sam. That's the role we'll play. A quick orientation of our interface. It's a role-based interface. There are 3 out-of-the-box roles. We have an admin, we have editors and viewers. Of course, you can create your own user groups and roles. We'll see that in a minute. On the left panel, we see the menu. This is the home page. It's a curated list of alerts, action items based on your activity. Data sources. That's where, and we'll go through each one of them as we follow the story. Data sources is all the physical data sources that are connected to the catalog. Data dictionary is a list of tables, reports, files. The field dictionary is a list of physical data elements, again, columns in database, fields and files and reports. Business glossary, I think we all know, list of logical elements, system entities, industry specific entities, as well as your custom terms that you have. And the administration section, of course, is where you do, like an enterprise solution. So you can manage groups, roles, users, domains of data, building a hierarchy, as well as, importing external glossary terms. So let's start by seeing how we connect. Let's connect a Snowflake database to DvSum and run the scan. So I'm going to go to data sources. So this is a list of existing data sources. We'll walk through some of them. I add a source. We have 150 built-in connectors, everything from databases, data lakes, and enterprise SaaS applications. So again, based on which data sources are configured. In this case, I'll select Snowflake. Let's say it's data warehouse demo. I'm going to add my connection information to Snowflake. Demo, compute, let's confirm that it's connecting correctly. So I'm able to connect to it. And that's about it. I mean, we've connected to the source. I can click on scan and it's going to, and we'll see, what it does. For the, in interest of time, I've already scanned a particular similar source, exactly this source. So let's look at the results of that scan. So I'm looking at the Snowflake data warehouse, the same thing. scan history. So the first thing is, once the scan completes, of course, you get an email alert, etc. Let's look at a quick summary. So the quick insights are, in this particular case, there are 5 total tables that were scanned. There were 55 columns across those tables that were scanned. A lot of these additional insights, we'll see that in the later part of the story. So let's go ahead and look at what data sets it found. So now I'm going to look at the data dictionary. So again, it's a list of all the data sets that you have in the catalog. Of course, we can create different views. So this is a listing view of all the data sets. In this particular case, on the top panel, you see some summary insights. So we look at the 5 recently refreshed data sets. These are the 5 tables that it found in Snowflake. Let's look at one of them. So we'll start by looking at customers. So this is a preview panel. So everywhere in the application, you'll see it's a knowledge graph. It's able to seamlessly move between data and fields and glossaries and back and relationships. So it's like a Google Maps type preview of data. Let's go ahead and go into the details. So this is the kind of a catalog page of a table or a file or a report. We see 2 tabs, the overview, which is kind of the metadata, and the data tab. For a couple of things you'll notice is if the descriptions of the data sets, sometimes good data architects, database administrators comment on the database tables, then it will get that information. If not, it tries to come up with its own basic template of a definition. So in this case, customers data, it automatically in the bottom here, you see it has automatically tried to figure out that, hey, this looks like master data, so it can classify reference data, master data, transaction data, etc. The additional information that we see, again, we had set up how to get access to this data set. Some of that information shows up. Of course, the usability score, that's, I think, an important thing from a governance standpoint. So it can compute, how complete is the metadata of this particular data set. So we have a description, we have ownership, we have certain tags. We have not linked it to an entity like a subject area, and we've not defined lineage. So again, as we curate the data set, we can continue to see how this usability score improves. Second is the data tab. So this is the real value profile of the data. So starting with basic information, get the record count, keeps a history of record count. So it's an active scan that you can continue to do. There are 17 columns. Again, since it classifies the columns as well, it determines what are the primary key fields, what are considered attributes. In this case, there are no measures or time series because master data, but those would show up here. At the bottom here, we see the grid view, like a very similar to a data preparation kind of screen. We see the profiling information about the columns themselves. And also the fields themselves are automatically classified against your, either a system entity or your own business glossary. So for example, basic stuff that you see in all demos, emails, phone numbers, etc. Zip code, let's look at something to the right. I'm going to look at marital status, just for an example. So here, this is the, it contains, again, it has said this looks like an attribute. It's linked to a glossary term, the entity that already exists for marital status, the profiling information were blanks, uniques, complete data, the distribution of the data, and then it also computes the quality score. So in this case, the quality score is really low, probably because the spelling of separated is wrong in the data, whereas it's probably correct in this. We look at that. So the point is, it all of this information it does on its own. We have not done anything. We have not set up anything. It figures all this out on its own. I can, of course, we can look at from a dictionary perspective. So we can see all the different fields that got automatically linked to the glossary. And again, as we are, again, when we look, you can further improve the definitions of these like columns, and then that information gets persisted. So that's used in the search, etc. We'll do it for another data set. So this is customers. Let's go ahead and look at one more transactional data set. So I'm going to go back to our list and look at orders. So here again, as you see, it automatically figured out that it's transactional data. It finds the measures and the time series fields. So they are here. Now, an interesting thing here is that, order status, for example, you'll notice that an order status field is matched to an order status entity. However, this entity does not exist in my glossary. So this is a very powerful feature of DvSum, where it automatically recommends terms or entities you can add to your glossary. So again, looking at the profile of data, see how many columns, physical assets it is able to cluster and match to, and whether you can define a business rule against it. So it should have a definition, it should have a business rule. In this particular, it's saying that yes, you should probably add this as a glossary term in your glossaries, and these are the business rules that are associated with it, and it linked these three different columns, and again, it has the intelligence of names, not just exact names. It can look at fuzzy matching, it can look at the actual content of the data, and based on that come up with the match score. So in this case, it recommends that let's go ahead and look at this order status glossary term. So we looked at a data set. Now we are looking at a glossary. So this is a detailed page of a glossary term. So again, in this case, it also has this readiness of the data. So we can see there is a description. It has automatically identified what business rule I should have, which is 2 unique values that it found based on 3 data sets it looked at. And so I can go ahead and enrich it further. So let's look at how we can enrich this further. So I can say, okay, this represents delivered and returned shipments. So I can add further definitions to this. I can also, let's go ahead and edit this and say, so you can define different type of business rules. This is categorical data. So I can say DEL for delivered and RET for returned. You'll see how this helps. And I can also add tags. So, in this case, I can have custom tags saying that here, these are, logistics attributes. So I can create custom tags. You can have your own tag sets defined to control it, or you can define custom tag sets. So let's go ahead and save it, and let's go ahead and publish it. So this is a quick view of how it will, you can review as a steward, review suggested glossary terms, and choose to add to your published list of glossaries. If we look at the listing view of a glossary, you can, based on the scans, we can say, we can look at, there were 14 or total of 15 suggested terms that AI did. And, one of them we looked at, but you can see some of the other fields. And of course, you can choose to say, hey, I don't want to add all of these, but perhaps, manufacturer part number, another example. In this case, it's not a categorical data, but it's a pattern. It found that most of the data has exactly this pattern. So it can suggest that, hey, this is the business rule that you should have for this data. So again, tries to help make, enriching the glossary and the logical data easier with the AI and the intelligence that it has. All right. So with that, let's back to another perspective is, once all that matching is done, there are many different views or slices of data we could do. So if we look at the field dictionary, for example, I could create, because of all the matching it has done, I could create a view. Let's say I have a policy saying that in my analytics data warehouse, we cannot have PII fields. We should not be bringing them into our analytics warehouse. So I could create a view and call it PII non-compliance. And we can say that my tags on the columns include PII classification, yes, and my source data, or the source that I'm looking at, is only my Snowflake data warehouse. So just like that, we've created a quick view. And of course, this view gets refreshed automatically as you scan more data and more things. So of course, the goal would be that, hey, we want to work with data engineering to say either mask this data or remove these fields from the analytics warehouse. But the point is, once you have the view, then as new scans happen, new tables come in, new columns come in, and they fall into this criteria. This becomes like a report or a view of alerts to say that, hey, this is like non-compliance of data. So that's another perspective of how the tagging of the information helps from a governance standpoint. All right. So all of this curation of the data, etc., is all nice from a governance standpoint. But what about from an analyst standpoint? So how do they use all this information, right? So let's go ahead and switch the persona and say that, okay, I am Adam the analyst, and we are getting a lot of returns on these shipments. And my manager Larry from logistics is asking me that, can we do some analysis on, where what is driving a lot of returns of our shipments of the orders that we have shipped. So if Adam comes in, remove the screen here and say, okay, I'm looking for data that contains the returns, right? So how is he going to search for that? So let's start by saying he searched for returns. So this is where we now I'm showcasing you our and free text and enterprise search. So in this particular case, when I search for it, again, it searches across text, across names, across profiles, and all of that. In this particular case, I'm seeing status fields. In STG shipments database, I'm looking at third party. So hey, I'm only looking for data types. I'm sorry. So there's no data sets. So okay, let me start by looking at order status. And from order status, I can see that there are two different data sources that I'm interested in, either Snowflake data warehouse orders table or STG shipments table. So how do I evaluate which one I should use? So again, as Adam, I can quickly look at the profile of that data. Let me say, hey, I already have access to Lake. Let me go to orders. I go to data and I see order status. I quickly look at its profile and say, hey, I only have 126 return orders, not sufficient for me to do any kind of analysis, perhaps. Let me go and look at the other data set. I'm going to go back, sorry, back button to my search results. And this time I'm going to look at the STG logistics DV shipments data. And this time, again, let's look at the data. I see a status field. So again, status field here, if I look at it, I see there are 4,000 return orders. So perhaps this is the data that I want to use. Now, this is another database, but again, the information, metadata information that is automatically curated says that to get access to this data, you need to contact Larry Logistics. So again, usually, so if you imagine, all he came to know was I needed to find return orders. There is no column called returns. The column in the two different databases are different. In one case, it's called status. In the other call, it's called order status. All of that information, because through the order status term, it is able to link all these physical assets. We are able to search for that data, or Adam is able to quickly find that data, look at the profile of the data, and then confidently choose that, yes, this is the one that I'm going to use. Otherwise, what will happen is he is going to contact data engineering or IT and say, I need this data. Somebody's going to do search in data dictionary. They will not find it. They'll send in the wrong data sets. Usual stuff that takes time in data discovery. We're able to do much faster with the connected data set in Glossary. All right. Next thing is, let's upload some more terms. So, okay, DvSum did curation of terms on its own. But I may have my own business glossary, my metrics, for example, that business is looking for from insights in their report standpoint. So again, let's switch slightly back to Sam and say, how about loading my own? I have a list of my KPIs and I want to load those into DvSum. So again, go to administration, glossary import. So you can easily add all your existing terminologies that you have also in DvSum. In this case, I'm going to upload from the template. And let's review, just adding a couple of terms. So it's, again, you can load different type of things. You can just load KPIs, computed measures with formula definitions, or additional attributes, right? Your custom attributes. So let's go ahead and import this. And of course, those terms are now available. And next time you scan data sets, it's going to try to match physical columns and tables to these terminologies. All right. The third thing, so we looked at from a governance standpoint, the Sam, the steward, we looked at from Adam's standpoint. Now, what about users, right? So, one of the big things that we keep hearing is that, the people who know the data the best, the business context is the business users, right? However, their job is not to fill glossary spreadsheets and get approval on data definitions. I mean, that's not their job. So one of the struggle always is how do you engage your business users with your data catalog, right? If you ask them to fill spreadsheets or ask them to log into a technical tool, which is not part of their business process, it doesn't drive engagement. So one of the features of DvSum is there's a browser plugin and there is a desktop app by which any interface that the business user is in, they are able to quickly access the definitions and the terminologies in the catalog. So let's take a quick look. So in this case, I'm going to open up. So this is the desktop app. Let's go ahead and open it up. Looks like a book and it's available. I mean, once Becky in this case installs it, and let's say she receives an email. So it could be anything. It could be a PDF, it could be a PowerPoint, it could be Excel, it could be a Power BI Tableau report, or it could be an email, right? Or Teams, for example. So it really doesn't matter. It's on her desktop. So let's say Becky receives this report saying that this is about supplier compliance, and she's looking at a specific metric called risk response score for APAC region. It's worsened because of geopolitical reasons, etc. And she wants a refresher on how is this score calculated, right? So this is a metric. How do I get the definition of the metric? So she just selects the term. She clicks on the book, and now DvSum obviously goes and does a search on your data, your tables, your glossary terms. And in this case, it found the glossary term called risk response score. She's able to see the quick definition of it, the formula. I mean, if she chooses to, she's interested in that. Who manages this data? Who's the steward for this data? And so very quickly, she's able to find the definition for this. Now, again, one is consuming this, the other is making suggestions, right? So maybe this definition is not complete, or she looks at it and says, you know what, this is not correct. We are not using Moody's, we are using S&P for financial score for this risk response. So she can make a suggestion. Of course, she's a user. She cannot go ahead and update. She doesn't have permissions to directly update the terminology. So she can make a suggestion. Says, okay, let me suggest a definition change and average of S&P. And she can say, these are important KPIs. So let's call it procurement KPIs. She's suggesting this. And just like that, so now her information that she has suggested, the definition change, comes back as an alert to Sam, or whoever, in this case, Sam, for example, he's the steward. So if we go back from a Sam's perspective, risk response score. And this is Sam's view, right? So in this case, when he looks at this KPI or this metric, you will see that he sees that there is a suggestion that shows up on the definition. He can look at what the suggestion was, and either he can choose to ignore it, or in this case, he does want to use it. So let's go ahead and copy it, edit. And let's say I'm going to change it to say S&P. And I'm going to add the tags that she suggested. Classification, procurement. Save it, publish the changes, and mark it as resolved. So now Becky will also get to know that, hey, the suggestions or the contribution that she's making to the enrichment of the data is getting heard. And so this way there is a kind of collaboration between the business and the management of the catalog in a more seamless fashion. So we don't have to send out spreadsheets and say, please fill this information, and that information becomes stale. The user is able to consume the catalog. They're able to contribute to the catalog right from the back. All right. Finally, let's look at the additional, so one is we can scan the data catalog, and the second is as data comes in, the active part of the augmented catalog, which is, data is not the same, it changes. So another thing that DvSum does, it detects changes that happen in data. So for example, I'm going to go back to data sources. And in this case, I'm emulating, in interest of time, through a file upload mechanism, but consider that this is your S3 data lake, or it is an Azure blob storage data lake storage. So in this case, there are orders file that was loaded yesterday, and today, let's say a new file is coming from a third party. So third party data is the most difficult to control because we don't know if the upstream team or the vendor in this case of your data, the third party supplier of the data, made any changes. Could be schema changes, volume changes, 0 bytes file, data type change. So let's go ahead and simulate that today. I got a new file of orders. So again, it's a scanner is running. It's going to scan the data, new data, and it compares the profiles with the previous version of the data. And if it detects a significant change, either in the data types, layout, volume of data, or even the distribution of the data itself, like I'm seeing a lot of blank values, it is going to be able to alert that information. So let's wait a second for the scan to finish. And while it is happening, okay, and finish. So if you look at the scan history in this case, so if now you see the different insights, it says, hey, I did find the same table, but I found that the table has some issues with the volume of the data. And even on the field side, I find one field which is higher blank values, maybe new categories come in. So why is this information helpful from a catalog? So this is the perspective of a data engineer. Their biggest problem is they want to make sure their data pipelines don't fail. And these kind of issues cause data pipelines to fail. So from a data engineering standpoint, they can, all the scan that I did right now on the console, all of this is available through APIs. So they can integrate the scan as part of their data pipeline. And if there is any issues with the data, they can either stop their pipeline, or in this case, if it's not a critical issue, the scan runs, and if I go to my home, it's going to give me an alert, whether by email, etc., saying that, hey, the data set that I'm following, in this case, orders, there's a drift of the data, and perhaps I should take a look. So again, this is the active part of the data catalog, where looking at the latest profile of data, it is able to suggest if there are any issues with the data. All right, so let's get back to summarizing this up. So let's recap the critical features of DvSum. One, it brings a high level of intelligent automation to the table out of the box. This allows you and your team to spend less time making your data rich and meaningful. Second, it's straightforward to get started. You saw, we saw a few data types, but there are 150 connectors that we have. You can connect your on-prem data sources, multi-cloud data sources, enterprise SaaS applications, and start building a rich catalog literally in hours and days. Third, you saw it has a beautiful, clean, intuitive interface, and with a unique desktop app, you can engage your business users to consume and contribute to the catalog. And finally, pricing. We offer an attractive, simple tiered pricing published on our website, and we also have a free starter plan. 2 users, 2 data sources for free. So to recap, or in summary, enterprises use DvSum ML data catalog to do 4 things: increase analytics productivity, deliver timely and accurate insights faster, run a lean and sustainable data governance program, increase data literacy and trust in data. With that, that was a demo and presentation. Thank you, DataVersity, for letting me showcase our solution. I want to invite all the participants to sign up for our solution. It's free to start with. You can begin building your data catalog. I'd also love to speak to you about your specific use cases and needs and how our solution can address those. Shannon, I'd like to open it up for questions, please.
Gee, thank you so much for this great presentation. A lot of great questions coming into the Q&A section when you have them. So diving in here, does the DvSum catalog have taxonomies, data lineage, and data policy management?
Taxonomies, yes. Lineage, no. We are able to import lineage, but we don't have our own lineage generator. And from a policy standpoint, I think the kind of questions that were being asked of the previous presentation, no, not to that level of detail. However, business rules or data policies, etc., whether it's there, you can create those policies inside DvSum. But specifically, I think I'd have to answer that question more specifically from the participant.
I love it. So in this context, what does ML stand for?
Oh, machine learning. So one of the things that I mentioned, as I mentioned, was as the human curation. So, we looked at from a SAM standpoint, if he says that, what, this particular column matches this particular entity, the system continues to learn from that, so that next time you add another data source, it is able to match new columns and fields to that based on the matching that was done previously. So the three different elements, how it does its matching. Second is how it automatically recommends the suggestions. And the third is how it determines the data quality changes. Those are all based on intelligence and algorithms. And that is the ML part of the machine learning in the data catalog.
I love it. So can you limit access to users by the customized views?
Absolutely. Yes. So all the things that I showed you, I mean, you can define the views, you can limit the views, you can share the views, make other people viewers only, editors. So all the basic collaboration capabilities, yes, you can do that.
And do you have any U.S. federal government customers, including large agencies with many bureaus?
No, we do not. A lot of our customers, I mean, you saw on the first slide, so, retail, manufacturing, a little bit on the healthcare side, consumer goods, those are the industries. We have compliance certifications, not HIPAA yet or PCI DSS, but, we do have the ISO 27001 compliance. And again, no federal customers. But Coca-Cola is one of our customers. So from a large customer standpoint, we do have a couple.
Yeah, and it sounds like you definitely have some tight security there too if you're working with healthcare. And how is the formula computed by the system?
I'm sorry, formula. Okay, if I understood the question, the formula that was shown up in the glossary term that was uploaded, that was a documentation that was part of the upload process. However, the computations that DvSum does is more on the data quality side. When it looks at the profile of the data, it looks at outliers. So, and based on that, it makes suggestions. So if the question was about the formula fields that you saw, that was actually documentation that was uploaded from the glossary terms.
The questioner says that was exactly it. That's perfect. Thank you. So if you have any additional questions, I'll give everyone a moment to submit them in the Q&A portion. Ashish, this is really cool tech. And we got a question that came in here. So you mentioned 3 role-based access, admin, viewer, and what was the third one? And can I create more roles?
Absolutely. Yeah, the third one was editor. So like kind of you can think of an analyst or a steward would be in the editor and admin. So editors can enrich or curate. You can think of them as curators. Admins are the ones who can add new data sources, scan data sources, add users, etc. And then viewers are obviously, they can make suggestions like Becky. But absolutely, these are out of the box. You can create as many combination of roles and groups and assign them to users.
I love it. So what's with this technology built in, Ashish, what's the most common thing you hear from your customers? Like what's the thing that they didn't expect that they find just really solves their problem?
I think the biggest thing I find is that, even with I think the importance of data catalog is known, but how to get from that basic metadata to a really rich catalog that's usable, that's where that's the long pole. And the human curation effort doesn't go away, and that's the thing that they really find differentiated with DvSum, is a lot of that heavy lifting is already done. So right off the bat, you get something that is actually usable, right? From an analytics standpoint, you don't need a heavy data stewards and business data managers, etc. You have them in the organizations, but you don't need a lot of time from them to kind of do the basic stuff. They can really come in for doing the high value added, adding business context to the data, and the system continues to learn from that. That's the part they find very powerful with DvSum. And of course, our interface, I think is much cleaner and intuitive than many of the other tools.
I love it. Can DvSum deal with duplicate terms or equivalent terms in the glossary? Is there integrated thesaurus?
Absolutely, yes. And I think in the demo I did not show, but yes, when new terms come in, either whether you upload them or it suggests, yes, you can see duplicate terms, not just based on the names, but also based on the business rule itself or the description itself. So yes, it can detect and help you clean up or consolidate your glossary terminologies.
Fantastic. Those, and can you create multiple glossary groups and internal versus external industry standard terms?
Absolutely, yes. So again, I did not go into the whole that domains and categories, etc. But you can create multiple glossaries. You can create and give access so that only certain terms are accessible to people, like for example, the business users, and the others that are more internal. You can do all of that. Yes, you can prioritize them. I think one of the things from a data migration, sorry, Shannon, just to add to that, one of the use cases that we're finding a lot is you can say that, data governance is not like one size fits all. So some things are more important right now because that is connected with business initiatives. Maybe it is my, orders data, or I'm doing, there's a new business initiative on marketing side. So you can prioritize your, let's say, categories of the glossary, and then all the columns connected to it, that could be the priority focus for data governance. Hey, we want to improve the data quality, not for everything in the company, but these columns that are related to these glossaries. So a lot of those, let's say, prioritization of governance effort can be done, with the combination of this connected glossary and dictionary.
All right, we've got questions coming in. We've got just a few minutes left. I'll try and slip in as many as I can here. Ashish, are notifications sent to editors via email, or do they need to log into the tool?
Both. So you can set it up so that you get emails, direct emails. You can get a digest at the end of the day, or you don't want to get emails, then you log into the tool and you see it.
All right, and just a couple minutes left. Kind of a beefy question, so if you can get the answer in here. Could you kindly please comment about data lineage again a little bit more? Reverse engineering of ETL, ELT processes. Also, could you kindly please comment about bilingual support?
Okay, I think there were three pieces to that question. Let me see. Data lineage. So we do not have our own scanners of data lineage. However, we have the ability to import lineage from another tool. Bilingual support, yes. I mean, we have internationalization built in, not just on the tool, like you normally see the menu items, etc. Even the text. So we use, for example, we use live Google Translator. So many times, your definitions, you can at least see a suggestion of that definition in other languages like Italian or Spanish or Arabic. And then, of course, curated, because, the translator in Google is always not good. But at least, it fully supports internationalization, not just of the menu, but also of the actual definitions that you might have in your data.
That is perfect, and great note to end on. Ashish, thank you so much, and DvSum for this great presentation, but I'm afraid that is all the time we have slotted for this session. Thanks to all the attendees who have joined us so far. We now have a 15-minute break where we encourage you to network with each other as you hear us get the next session set up. Ashish, thank you so much.
Thank you, Shannon. Thanks everyone for your time.